How I Met Your Mother isn't afraid to have dark moments and have the characters of the show go through some really tough times. Grief isn't a topic that the show takes lightly, and every main character has to confront it at some stage. Being a show about life, this makes perfect sense. Everybody has or will go through grief at some stage of their lives, and it's important that a show like this reflects and properly represents it. In the show, they explore a wide range of issues that cause grief, such as heartbreak, loss of a loved one, not being satisfied with what you have achieved in your life, not having a proper father figure, and being told you can't have something. And the show does an excellent job to show how people deal with these types of issues and grow from these experiences. It's not particularly comfortable to confront, but it's necessary. The earliest the show put a major spotlight on the idea of grief was in season 2. At the end of the first season, Lily broke off the engagement with Marshall to pursue a career in art in San Francisco. After being together ever since college, Lily felt like she needed to find out who she was as an individual and not in a relationship with someone else. And the show does a really good job building up this plot point in the first season, as up until that point, Lily for a lot of her life has been in a romantic relationship with someone, whether it was Scooter or Marshall, and you can really feel where Lily is coming from to a point where you can understand why she went down this road. In Season 2 Episode 1, Where Were We?, we mainly got to see how Marshall has dealt with the fallout of the relationship, as Ted, Robin and Barney try to get him back on his feet. Marshall goes through all the stages of grief with denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But throughout the episode there's an emphasis on time, and that over time things and people will get better. But the amount of time depends from person to person, and for Marshall it took a very long time. And I think that it's very important to establish that everyone is different, and it can take varying amounts of time for people to get over and move on from things like heartbreak, and it's completely normal if it takes you a long time or a short time to move on from someone. This is Marshall's first time being broken up with after a long-term relationship, so it's perfectly understandable with how he reacts and deals with the situation. The episode was able to have quite a few comedic moments while also having some serious ones, with Marshall, Ted and Robin all taking valuable lessons out of it.
You're gonna blow it for him and he's never gonna forgive you. Of course, whatever I say, you're just gonna do the opposite, so have a great weekend. Good luck screwing up your life. Come on, Robin. Is it still okay if we borrow the car? Bold. Bold to go for the car.
Season 2, Episode 2, The Scorpion and the Toad explores Lily's side of the breakup and her trip to San Francisco. At first it looks like she's doing great, but as the episode goes on, it soon becomes apparent that she regrets going to San Francisco. When she tells Robin about all of her experiences, they're all fairly positive, but when the truth comes out, all of the stories Lily told still play out quite similar, with nothing in the dialogue changing. It's just the tone of voice and how it's being said is what's different.
Oh my God. This is your best work. In all my years teaching, I've never seen anything so... Needless to say, this is art. I can't teach you anything. Oh my God. This is your best work? In all my years teaching, I've never seen anything so needless. To say this is art. I can't teach you anything.
Lily talks about the regrets she had for going to San Francisco and breaking up with Marshall, and how she thought she ruined her chance with the love of her life. Not too long after, Lily and Marshall randomly meet in front of McLaren's, where Lily asks Marshall to get back together, and as a surprising twist, Marshall says no. And over the next few episodes they remain split up until they do eventually get back together. This was a great starting point with exploring the idea of grief in the show, and gives plenty of time to flesh out both sides of the story, and it was overall really well executed. This story has a much happier ending than the ones I'm going to get into, and that's made abundantly clear with the next one, with Marshall losing his father. In Season 6 we receive one of the biggest emotional gut punches in the entire show. At the end of episode 13, Lily tells Marshall that his dad passed away after a heart attack. This scene is truly heartbreaking, and the actors do a really good job selling the pain of this news. This plot point was set up from the very beginning. Marshall's family is the only one we see in the first season, and they're portrayed as this perfect family compared to the other members of the gang. And the relationship that is shown between Marshall and his dad is really sweet, and it's obvious that he looks up to him and is one of the most important figures in his life. And when the news does come, it literally comes out of nowhere, which unfortunately happens quite a lot in real life, and lots of people can relate to this kind of loss. The following episode, Last Words, is set during the funeral in Minnesota, and this episode is mainly focused on Marshall and reflecting about his last interactions with his dad. But there are also quite a few moments focused on the other members of the gang. At the start of the episode, all of them feel useless and have no idea how to help Marshall during this tough time, and I think this is a really important perspective to see. It's a very rough time for everyone, and seeing a friend go through this can be really hard and can make you feel powerless, which in of itself is painful. None of the other members of the gang have gone through a tragedy like this, and it really reflects on how clueless they are to try and cheer up Marshall. And they do attempt to try. Ted and Barney try to make him laugh by showing him videos of people getting hit in the nuts, but ultimately, it is unsuccessful. The theme of the funeral was last words, and after hearing all the other members of his family tell really nice and sweet stories, Marshall is struggling and doesn't know what to do, since after recounting all of his last words with his dad, the best thing he could say at the memorial service was that he said, "Rent Crocodile Dundee 3. The rest of the gang try to play down the significance of last words or last memories with someone, and to focus on the best memories instead. But Marshall asks everyone how they would handle their latest memory with their dads as their last, and it becomes obvious to them that it is in fact a big deal. A lot of the episode is dedicated to Marshall building up the courage to listen to a voice message from his dad that he found, but the fear of it being worse than other things he said sways Marshall into not listening to it until the memorial service. After hearing all the other members of his family get up and tell their perfect last memories with Marvin, Marshall decides he has to listen to the voice message. But it turns out to be a pocket dial. Marshall is broken, for what he thought was going to be the last words his dad will ever say to him turned out to be literally nothing.
My dad was my hero. And he was my teacher. And he was my best friend. He always came through for me. And now he's just gone. And what am I left with? Thanks a lot, God. Thank you. You took my father, the greatest man that I have ever known, and you whipped him off this earth way too young. And he'll never get to meet our kids, Lily. But we got this voicemail. Thank you so much for the voicemail. It's a great comfort, because whenever I'm starting to feel lonely or sad or you know what, or maybe a little bit cheated, at least I got the sound of his pocket to console me.
Marshall.
How is this fair? You got like an entire human life, and it just ends for no reason, and what are we left with?
This is one of the most gut-wrenching speeches in the whole show, and also one that sticks with the viewer. Life can be really unfair at times, and confronting the fact that someone very close to you will be gone forever is a really tough experience. Words cannot give this speech justice to how good and powerful it is, and it's one of the best scenes in the whole show. After everyone comforts Marshall, his dad's voice pops up.
I love you. My father's last words to me are, I love you.
Oh, and let me know if you find my foot cream. That fungus thing is acting up again.
I love you. My father's last words to me are, I love you.
Yes, they were. We heard it. Yeah, loud and clear.
When Marshall gets up to talk about his last words with his dad, he tells the Crocodile Dundee 3 story, leaving the real last words to himself. This was a really great episode, and it really sells the pain of everybody during this time, but unfortunately this isn't where the story ends. Marshall stays in Minnesota over the next couple of episodes to look after his mum, And when Lily visits him, she realizes that it's actually Marshall's mum looking after him, and Marshall reverts back to becoming a teenager again. Marshall is still really depressed after losing his dad and uses going back to Minnesota as a form of escapism and choosing not to face reality. And it takes a while for Marshall to finally realize he needs to go back to his normal life and for him to not be stuck in the past.
Here's a secret. I couldn't see worth a damn either, buddy. I just kept driving forward, hoping for the best.
The show does a really good job of showing the significant impact that Marshall's dad had on him, and there are plenty of other scenes just like this. This is one of the most emotionally gripping storylines I've seen in a sitcom, and it's really because of how the show portrays Marshall and his dad's relationship throughout the series. Things don't get much easier when he gets back home. Marshall grew up wanting to be an environmental lawyer, and his dad was always super proud of him for having that dream. Marshall realizes that his dad will never see him achieve that dream and instead becomes the opposite, a corporate lawyer, and this leads him into hating his job at G&B more than ever. And in response, he does everything he can to help save the environment and make the world a better place, even if it comes at a cost. What I like about this plot point in particular is that they don't paint Marshall as a stable-minded person, and his mindset of fixing as much as he can in as little time possible isn't seen as heroic in the eye of the viewer. We see the consequences of it from getting his co-workers fired and having people do unhealthy amounts of manual labour. He eventually quits his job at G&B, putting all the financial burden on Lily, where she feels pressure to support his every move even if she really doesn't want to. This also means putting off having a child, which they've been trying to do throughout the season, with not enough money being made to provide for the baby being one reason and Marshall's mental health being the other. But Marshall is able to recognise the harm he is causing to the people around him and decides to finally get his life back in order, getting a job and following his dream to become an environmental lawyer. This whole arc is why I believe Season 6 is one of the best seasons of the show. They're able to mix the regular sitcom formula and also have serious moments and good character development that spans throughout the entire season. And this story arc for Marshall is my favourite arc in the whole show. A lot of Lily's best moments as a character comes in the latest seasons of the show. Season 8 especially, since there are quite a few episodes that put a spotlight on it. The first episode is episode 13, Band or DJ, where Barney and Robin have just got engaged and the gang are disputing whether they should get a band or a DJ at their wedding. Ted is the only one to be against getting a band. He even goes as far as to try and sabotage them when they try to book a band so they'll be compelled to hire a DJ instead. Lily quickly finds out that this is all a symbol, with the DJ representing Ted and the band representing Barney, and this explains why Ted is so adamant in wanting Robin to hire a DJ, and that there is still a part of Ted that wants to be with Robin. Lily calls Ted up to the roof where she tries to make Ted confess how he truly feels, but he won't budge. He knows saying those words out loud will make him sound like an awful person. So Lily decides to open up to Ted and say something that makes her sound just as, if not even more terrible.
Sometimes I wish I wasn't a mom. Sometimes I want to pack a bag and leave in the middle of the night and not come back.
This makes Ted feel comfortable to open up, and he tells Lily how he truly feels.
Robin shouldn't be with Barney, she should be with me.
Lily says her reasoning for feeling this way wasn't because she didn't like being a mother, but that she isn't really satisfied with her everyday life and how she basically abandoned her dream and passion with art to have a career of just being a kindergarten teacher. She has already come to terms that she will never seek out her dreams fully, and that's the reality she has to face. Even though she is living a happy life with her husband and child, there is still a part of her that regrets not pursuing her dreams further when she had the chance. And just like Ted, this is the first time she's talked about this to anyone, meaning she has never had it in her to talk about this to Marshall. This storyline is followed up on in episode 17, The Ashtray. The gang recount a night where they went to an art gallery a year and a half ago after the captain calls Ted to try and contact Lily for an unknown reason. During the night at the gallery, Lily constantly gets ridiculed for opinions on certain pieces of art by the captain's art consultant, and then later by the captain himself. This leads Lily in the present to finally open up to Marshall about how she truly feels.
Okay, so what? So he said you're just a kindergarten teacher. Why do you let that bother you?
Because he was right. I am just a kindergarten teacher. And yes, I have a degree in art history and I was meant to do something with it, but I didn't. Somewhere along the line, I forgot to pursue my dream, and now I'm old, and I'm a mom, and it's just too late for me.
Lily, okay.
The feeling of not being content with what you have done with your life and feeling like it's too late to achieve your dreams is heartbreaking, and Alison Hannigan's acting really sells the pain that Lily is going through. The way this scene is built up in the background throughout the previous seasons, making the audience reflect that, yeah, there has been no real spotlight on Lily's career and her dreams throughout the show, especially compared to every other member of the gang, and that she never really did anything with her passion for art. It makes you feel sad for Lily. Luckily, this story does have a happy ending. The captain shows Lily that he actually bought the painting she suggested, and the artist has become really successful now, and that she was the only person to recognize their talent when they were still small. So the captain offers her a job of being his art consultant, which opens up a lot of opportunities for her. Ted as a character goes through a lot of hardships on his journey to find the one, but there are a few key moments where we see him at his lowest. The first being when he got left at the altar. During season 3, Ted goes out with a girl named Stella, and their relationship moves very fast, with them only dating for 7 episodes before Ted proposes to her. In the early stages of season 4, a lot of red flags pop up, with the big one being how they didn't really know each other enough to get married, and how they didn't have much in common. The rest of the gang warns Ted about it through an intervention, but Ted decides to go ahead with the wedding anyway. On the weekend of the wedding, Stella warns Ted about bringing Robin because she doesn't like exes going to their special day, and it's foreshadowed throughout the episode that the wedding won't go ahead because of an ex. Later, Ted has to go back to New York to pick up Stella's daughter, Lucy, from her father, Tony. Tony won't let Ted pick up Lucy, so Ted allows him to come along as well. Ted takes them both to the venue, and Stella isn't exactly thrilled when Tony shows up. They talk and they both agree to tell the other ex they aren't invited, until Ted suggests that he should talk to Robin and Stella should talk to Tony, and this is the main catalyst of the wedding not going ahead. We get to see the conversation between Ted and Robin, and during their talk, Robin tries to dissuade Ted into getting married to Stella, as it seemed very unnatural for the romantic person he is to just run away into another person's life. Ted refuses Robin's advice and still goes ahead with the wedding, but when he gets back to his room, he finds a note from Stella saying that she is leaving him to get back with Tony. I really like how this was written. The build-up felt like Robin was going to be the reason why the wedding didn't go ahead, and that she would convince Ted to rethink his decision. The subversion of expectations here is a great example of the excellent writing in this show. We get to see the initial moment of shock and grief right after reading the letter, and we see the gang comforting Ted in his room. The next day, Ted is acting uncomfortably normal, seeming he just got left at the altar the previous day, and the gang are rightfully concerned about him. And over the next couple of weeks, they try to be there for Ted, but Ted insists that he is fine. It comes to the point where the gang are frustrated and they want him to release his true feelings on the situation, but once again, Ted doesn't budge. But as they try to find a spot to go for dinner that night, Ted makes it really difficult with his map of all the places to avoid where he might run into Stella. They eventually find a place, but once they get there, not long after, by coincidence, Stella happens to walk in. Ted hides and tries to avoid any sort of confrontation, until he realizes that this is his chance to finally get some clarity on the situation. They get a cab and follow her home, but soon Ted realizes that home is actually to Tony's house, which finally makes him angry, as Stella was always adamant wanting Ted to move to her place in New Jersey, but was all of a sudden fine moving in with Tony. Ted prepares a speech to tell Stella, but when he's about to confront her, he sees Tony and Lucy greet her, and realizes that they are all happy together. There was no point in confronting her, as Ted found that Stella and Tony were meant to be together all along, and even if he was the one that ended up getting hurt, it was their happily ever after, and he couldn't bring himself to be angry at that. Ted finally finds the clarity that he wanted. He lets go and is able to move on with his life. The next section will be talking about Ted's relationship with Robin, and this goes throughout the whole series, but there are 2 key moments within their relationship where Ted goes through a lot of emotional pain. In season 7, Robin dates Kevin, and we're even planning to get married at one stage, but after some conflicts of interest about future plans for having kids, they end up breaking things off. So after Ted found out that Robin was willing to commit to marriage and her not wanting to commit being one of the main reasons why they broke up in season 2, Ted thought after all this time of trying to find the one might have been right in front of him for all that time, so he confesses his love to Robin. The response took a long time, since Robin had a work trip overseas the very next day. While she's away, Ted realizes the real reason why they've never gotten back together after all this time, and that reason being that she still has feelings for Barney. Once Robin gets back from her work trip, they go out for the night, but when the night is over, it's clear that a relationship isn't going to be possible. Ted confronts Robin that the reason is because of Barney, but Robin says that her life being so hectic at the moment was the main reason. Robin mentions that they still had their agreement that after they both hit 40 years old that they would get back together, but Ted doesn't want to go through with it anymore, citing that he doesn't want the hope that they might end up together in the end, and if it's not going to work now, there's no point in seeing if it'll work later. So Ted asks once and for all if Robin loved him, and she says no. Ted calls Marshall to the bar and says that overall, it is a good thing that he can finally let go of Robin so he can find the one, but that doesn't end up happening. Marshall, knowing that Ted's feelings for Robin are killing him, he asks Robin to move out of the apartment for Ted's sake, which she agrees to. As a result, Ted starts to drift away from Robin and their friendship hits a rough patch.
The one person I want to talk to most barely looks me in the eye anymore, much less returns my calls. Ted, I know it took guts to tell me you love me, and I know how much it hurt that I didn't say it back, but damn it, this sucks for me too. I miss you.
Unfortunately, they can't go back to normal, and the next few episodes focus on how Ted is trying to let go of his feelings for Robin and handling the guilt of choosing not to talk to her for a long time. But it is only until Marshall and Lee have their baby when they realise they want Marvin to live in a world where both of them are friends and are on good terms. And that's where it ends for a little bit, until Barney and Robin get engaged. In Season 8, Episode 12, The Final Page Part 2, Barney explains to Ted how he's planning to propose to Patrice. Ted knew about how Robin was obsessing over Barney throughout the season so far and decided that he's going to tell Robin, as this would be her final chance to do something about it. The night comes and Ted tells Robin about what Barney is planning to do. Robin says that she is done chasing after Barney and wants to go to the grand opening of Ted's building, but Ted insists that she should go after Barney because she's still in love with him. But Robin holds firm. It's only until Ted stops the limo at the place Barney is planning to propose to, and he finally convinces her to go after Barney one last time.
I can't keep making an ass of myself.
Well, a word in defense of making an ass of yourself. It's underrated. 8 years ago, I made an ass of myself chasing after you, and I've made an ass of myself chasing after you a bunch of times since then. But I have no regrets. Because it led me to something that I wouldn't trade for the world. It led to you being my friend. So as your friend, and a leading expert in the field of making an ass of yourself, I say to you, from the heart, get the hell out of this car.
She gets out of the limo and finds out that Barney set all of it up to actually propose to her. Ted, even though he was still in love with her, made the choice to convince Robin to go get Barney. Even though it kills him inside, he still goes through with it because he truly loves Robin, and he knows that she will be the happiest with Barney and not him. In the later seasons especially, Ted is by far one of the most selfless characters in any TV show, sacrificing his happiness for his friends because he has a very special bond with every member of the gang. Unsurprisingly, when he got the news that they were engaged, Ted wasn't exactly on top of the world. This shows the very human side of Ted. Even though he's beyond happy for them, there is still a part of him that is heartbroken as well. The show did a very good job of displaying the complex nature of human emotion in this part, and is one of the highlights of the whole series because of it. Ted disguises his true feelings with the band or DJ debate, and had the talk with Lily on the roof and admitted that even though he encouraged her, there is still a part of him where he still wants to be with Robin. And that persists until the morning of the wedding where he truly lets go of Robin, making him ready to finally meet Tracy that same day. It's important that a show about life shows both the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and Robin goes through all the ups and downs of life, but if there was a single moment in the whole show where we see Robin at her lowest, it would be during Season 7, Episode 12, Symphony of Illumination. This episode opens very differently compared to the other episodes in the show, with Robin telling her kids the story of how she met their father. The story starts right after the cliffhanger from the previous episode, where Robin tells Barney that she's pregnant, and if you have followed Robin's character, it is very clear that she isn't interested in having children, making the episode so far feel kind of off. She says that she isn't 100% sure, so she's going to a medical practice to get confirmation, and it's also made clear that Barney is the only person that could be the father and not her current partner Kevin. Barney, knowing how Robin isn't interested in raising children, takes her to a baby shop with Lily to try and get Robin to soften up to the idea of having a baby. But in practice, this ends up dissuading her even more as she learns all of the negatives that come with raising a child. Even Barney isn't sure anymore after learning that his everyday life will be much different if he becomes a parent. When Robin gets her results back, she finds out that she isn't pregnant. But not long after, she gets called to come back in, and after further tests and analysis, she finds out that she is unable to have kids. This is a very interesting decision to have Robin, the person that doesn't want to have kids, to be infertile. Robin even says if it had to happen to someone, she's glad that it's her. If the writers wanted this to be more impactful, wouldn't they do it to someone who actually plans on having children? But that line of thinking would be looking at this situation at face value. Throughout the rest of the episode, we see how Robin copes with the news. You can see on the inside that it's actually affecting her quite a lot, to the point where the rest of the gang are worried about what's going on, even though she doesn't tell them the news. She comes up with a lie that she can't become a pole vaulter, where she can vent her feelings about the situation while also not telling anybody else the actual news. She goes back to the baby shop with Lily, Barney and Ted, but unlike her first visit, she sees all the good stuff that comes with having kids, making the internal pain grow.
Are you okay? Yeah, I guess this pole vaulting thing is finally hitting me. I don't get it, Robin. Did you really want to be a pole vaulter? No. No, I was always adamantly against having a pole vaulting career, even though it's what most women want. Most women want to be a pole vaulter in Canada. It's very big up there. You know, it's meet a nice guy, get married, vault some poles. But I never wanted that. Of course, it's one thing not to want something, it's another to be told you can't have it. I guess it's just nice knowing that you could someday do it if you changed your mind. But now, all of a sudden, that door is closed.
Ted is really worried about Robin and knows that she's lying and that something worse has happened to her. So Ted, as the unselfish person he is, tries to cheer up Robin in any way he can. But Robin is adamant that she doesn't need help and wants to be left alone during Christmas. She leaves and we finally get the reveal that the kids that she's talking to don't actually exist and it is all an illusion. Robin comes back to the apartment where Ted organises a light show to cheer her up to reaffirm that she will never be alone during the rough times in her life. This was a really great episode which turns Robin's simple idea of not wanting children into something a lot more complex. Even though she never planned to have kids and that most likely this news wouldn't have affected her life in any way, having that ability taken away from you is a lot different to choosing not to use it, and we see it with how Robin copes with the news. It takes a while to see the implications of this news again, but it stalls Robin's decision of Kevin's proposal. She does eventually say yes, but her not wanting to have kids ends up being the reason why they broke off the engagement. And later in season 9 it comes up again when Barney's mother talks about cooking her grandkids breakfast. After hearing that, Robin gets emotional, showing the lingering effects it still has on her. Once again showing that even though she never wanted to have kids, it's entirely different to being told that you can't have them. Barney is one of the deepest characters in any sitcom. In the first few seasons, we really only get to see him in how he wants to be perceived, with a few moments here and there of getting to know the other side of him. One of these instances was in season 1 episode 15, Game Night. At this point in the show, we have only seen Barney as the charismatic playboy showing no insecurities until Lily mentioned to Barney about a girl she met that knew him, named Shannon. Barney is shocked at first, but tries to play it cool, but once Lily mentions a tape, Barney is determined to get his hands on it. When he gets the tape, he destroys it instantly, only to realise Lily swapped it with a fake and she has the actual tape, and the whole gang watches it. We get to see a much different looking Barney, not just from his appearance, but his attitude as well. Embarrassed about what was on the tape, Barney leaves the apartment to only come back to the bar and is persuaded to tell the rest of the story. Barney didn't always act like he does now, as he had quite the opposite personality, being opposed to suits and hookups. Shannon was his girlfriend at the time, and they were supposed to go to a retreat to the Peace Corps for 2 years, but when it was time to go, Shannon never showed up. Barney finds out later that she was cheating on him with a person nearly identical to the one he would then become. He then made the embarrassing tape that the gang watched earlier, pleading for her to come back. Barney saw Shannon again, and both her and her boyfriend made fun of his video, which was the last straw for him. Barney decided to give in and become the person we now know him as. Even though Barney was embarrassed by the story, he doesn't regret anything and is happy with his life. This is actually one of the many reasons Barney grows to have abandonment issues, which ultimately turned him into the person he is. Before this episode, we didn't really have many episodes focusing on him, just side plots involving his antics, so we get a little sneak peek into his deep and rich backstory that brings everything about his character together. The topic of who Barney's father is a running gag throughout the series, with Barney being convinced it's Bob Barker from The Price is Right. But after his brother met his biological father and after the funeral of Marshall's dad, Barney is finally ready to meet his actual father. We get a few flashback scenes with him and his father, who at the time Barney knew him as Uncle Jerry, and he was a very bad influence to him and shared a lot of mannerisms that Barney would inherit in the future. Loretta would force Jerry out of Barney's life for his benefit. After growing up, Barney sent the letter to him. It took a little bit of time for his father to get back, until one day, out of the blue, he showed up to his apartment. The rest of the gang give them some alone time, and once Barney meets the gang again, he seems to be overjoyed with how the night went with his father, Jerome. The next day, the gang excluding Barney were hanging out at the bar, and Jerome approached them trying to get a hold of Barney, and Jerome talks about how the night before actually went. Jerome acts like an everyday suburban dad, not the crazy Jerry Barney was making him out to be. Jerome was trying his best to reconnect with him after not being in his life for the longest time, but Barney's expectations of who he thought he was going to be were very different to the reality. So Barney chose to ignore him after that night until the gang convinced him to see him again with his new family. To persuade him, Marshall points out that Barney still has the privilege to talk to his dad, unlike him who will never have that chance again. When he gets to his father's place, things don't get much better. Barney is greeted with a childhood he never had, a complete family, and it breaks him that he never got the chance to live his childhood with a proper father figure.
Barney, what is going on?
This is mine.
I don't understand.
JJ gets a childhood, a dad, a real family, and a basketball hoop? No. I at least get the hoop. I'm taking it with me.
Please, just come down and talk to me.
Why? Why should I? You're lame, okay? You're just some lame suburban dad.
Why does that make you so mad?
Because if you were gonna be some lame suburban dad, why couldn't you have been that for me?
Look, Barney, I know I screwed up.
Oh, screwed up doesn't even begin to describe
I know! I want to fix this and I don't know how. Please tell me what I can do. I'll do anything.
This scene has it all, from the emotional beats to showing the complex feelings they have for each other, and watching Barney finally let it all out and Jerome pleading to be a part of his life is powerful, and is one of the best scenes in any sitcom.
I have no good excuse, Barney. It took me years before I was even able to look myself in the mirror for the way I let you down. It took courage to send me that letter. More courage than I've ever had. I owe you a lifetime of apologies, and I just have no idea where to begin.
Barney goes back to the gang, leaving on bad terms with his dad. Jerome still tries to get in contact with him with very little success, until Barney tries a scheme to get Crazy Jerry back. Barney asks the gang to change their personalities while he's with his dad, which was eerily similar to earlier in the series when Barney hired actors to play his family while his mother was sick. When Jerome arrives, Barney lies to him about his and the gang's lives to appeal to the younger Jerome, but he isn't very approving of it now. They go to a club, and in desperation to try and develop a bond with his son, Jerome pretends to get drunk and becomes Crazy Jerry. Jerome was able to trick Barney as he was drunk during that whole time. Jerome finally confesses that it was all an act to try and satisfy Barney, but as they were on the sidewalk in handcuffs after Barney puked on a cop car, they finally bond over something and find something in common, being magic. They're able to get out of the handcuffs and escape, getting a ride to Jerome's house, and we get a really sweet moment between the two as they're driving back.
How did you do it?
Do what?
How did you become this? I mean, I love my life, but I'm not sure I like loving it. When I think about going for anything more than that, I look at my life, at who I am, and I'm too far gone. I'm broken.
Son, I was far more broken than you'll ever be. And look at me now. Don't get me wrong, settling down is a challenge. It's the biggest challenge of your life.
So how do you do it?
A magician never reveals his greatest trick. But I'll give you a hint. You gotta meet the right girl.
This is one of the first times in the series where we see Barney discontent with how he lives his life, and after this episode he makes more of an effort to be in and stay in romantic relationships, which in previous seasons wouldn't have even been a thought to him. And that is how Barney found his actual father, and grew to have a really good relationship with him. Now we skip to the end of the show in the time skip episodes to discuss the fallout of Barney and Robin's marriage. During the series we get an insight on how Barney deals with his breakups, with his significant romantic relationships being with Robin in season 5 and Quinn in season 7 and 8. After the first breakup with Robin, the very next episode he introduced the gang to the playbook. This book keeps all of Barney's plays and strategies to hit on women. And after Barney breaks up with Quinn, he creates Banktoberfest, which is exactly what it sounds like. And the plot for Barney that episode was finding new ways to hook up with girls for Banktoberfest. Even Barney's first heartbreak with Shannon is what led Barney down the path of suits and hookups to begin with, so there's a common theme here. But during the later parts of the show, Barney's character develops quite a lot, with him giving up a life of hitting on girls to settle down with Robin. So how exactly does he deal with the divorce? I think it's important to mention why they got divorced, because it wasn't caused by incompatibility. We even see Barney say that he still loves Robin during the scene. But the divorce was caused more by circumstance. Robin, being the career-oriented person she is, her work as a journalist takes her across the world, and Barney either goes with her and doesn't enjoy the trip, or he stays and he feels lonely. He wants to spend more time with Robin, but because of her job, it's just not feasible. So Robin asks him if he is happy being in this marriage still, and he says no. It's not the happy ending the audience wanted for their relationship, but it's a very realistic one. So how does he deal with the fallout of the relationship? We go forward a few months and we get to see Barney once again hitting on women. So was the whole arc of Barney letting go of this life meaningless? Not exactly, but I'll get to that in a bit. Barney has approached his 40s, and this behaviour is seen as very sad by the other members of the gang. He reverts back to his old ways because he can't escape the old Barney. It is well established that these behaviours stem from his abandonment issues caused by his dad and previous romantic relationships, so after getting out of a marriage that he initially thought he would be in for the rest of his life, it leaves him lost, so he goes back to what he knows. The life he is living in now only lasts for at the very most 3 years, when Barney tries to complete a perfect month. A callback to the episode The Perfect Week, which saw Barney take on this challenge where he tries to sleep with 7 girls in 7 nights. Now he is challenged to do it for a whole month, which he does end up succeeding in, but the catch is that the last person he slept with ends up getting pregnant. Barney isn't thrilled to be a father and prefers to live the carefree lifestyle that he has lived for the majority of his adult life. But once he finally meets his child, he realizes the love he now has because of the existence of his daughter.
You are the love of my life. Everything I have and everything I am is yours. Forever.
Throughout the show, the audience assumed that Barney's arc as a character was his journey to finally settle down with a woman and get married, but his established abandonment issues made that almost impossible to achieve. So he needed a person in his life that he could never abandon, a person he shared a connection with that could not be attainable with anyone else. A perfect way to end the story of an all-time great character. These events that happen to the main characters of How I Met Your Mother makes them feel like actual human beings instead of just characters in a TV show. Sitcoms are usually made with the sole purpose of being fun, lighthearted and comfortable, giving people the incentive to rewatch the show. But How I Met Your Mother breaks the norm and puts the characters and the viewers in uncomfortable positions from time to time. They're not afraid to get serious and make the depiction of these characters' lives a lot more realistic, and this is what separates this show from a lot of other sitcoms made during this time. How I Met Your Mother teaches the audience that you will go through tough times, but that only makes the good times you have all the more special.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, if I don't come back, well then, these are my last words to you all. I really, really, really love you guys. Now I'm gonna go drop a deuce.